My name is Councillor Paul Kane. I'm the chair of this committee. Can I just remind you that this is a meeting held in public and not a public meeting, so it's run as a committee, not as a public meeting. So you will be asked to speak and not speak if you interject. Okay? The protocols of the meeting are actually, they're on a leaflet that's on your chair. I'd like you to adhere to them as much as possible, please. Can I also ask you to either turn your phones off or onto silent, please? Thank you. Right, without further ado, we'll start the membership of the committee. As printed, liberals are printed.
Conservative no was only the other two are not here and no was
Indisposed. Yes.
indisposed, so we got
No. And we are as printed. Okay. Okay then, minutes of previous meeting. Can we agree them as a true record?
yeah.
Any comments on them? There to note. Thank you. Interest in lobbying then. Can we go around the table? Councillor Lawson, please.
First item, page 43.
Thank you. Councillor Pinnett.
The same one, Chair, item 14, page 43.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor. Can we take that as read as everybody's had that? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Has anybody else been lobbied on any of the other applications? No. Thank you. We've got them. Thank you. Commissioner Dudley then.
Understands about information related to the last agenda item.
Sorry?
Understands about information related to the last agenda item.
Right. Can we take them as and when?
Yeah.
Okay. Deputations or petitions then? Anybody got a deputation or petition? Is there any items under public question? Thank you. Site visits were carried out at the 3 sites this morning. Everyone attended. Thank you. Local planning appeals then. Item 10.
Thank you, Chair. I'm Julia Stedman, Development Management Team Leader. As you'll see from page 11 onwards, there are 5 appeal decisions being reported. 4 relate to planning applications and all were up to decisions. 2 were dismissed and 2 were allowed. The 5th appeal relates to an enforcement appeal where the enforcement notice has been upheld, but the time for completing for compliance has been extended to 6 months. Thank you, Chair.
Any comments on that? Councillor Pinnett, do you want to say something?
No. I mean, we do generally have a very good record with appeals. It's just that there's,
It's not too bad.
not too bad.
Far too old.
Chair, can I just say something? I found it interesting on one of the applications where they changed the word to approximately. What does approximately on the appeal? Yeah, actually, I know. So, which one was
it's the boundary.
Yeah.
Wasn't actually precisely accurate. It's on the ground, so they changed it because it was only a minor amendment. There's no everything which building was referred to.
If we're asking if the officers have learned anything from this, then we're hoping that they have.
Yeah.
Obviously, 2 appeals against you, it's rather than 0. The rate to be noted, can we note them? Thank you. Item 11 then, tree work application. This is 383 Bradford Road, Berkshire. You want to introduce yourself, please?
Yes, we've got on the tree officer for this area. This application from the committee because the applicant is the next member. The application is to prune a copper beech that's in the rear yard of their property. The tree is pretty close to the house and overhanging, getting quite close to touching the edges of the property.
it's to approve this.
This is.
Anybody got any objections to that?
Move approval, Chair.
You're moving to second, please. Councillor Woollen. That's moved to approve. All those in favour? That's approved then. Thank you. Item 12, this is two-work applications, Benny Mouse, Dewsbury.
This is a similar reason why this is here. There's 2 trees affected by tree preservation order, and the applicant is the relation of the elected member. This application is to carry out similar sort of pruning to clear a house and to provide more clearance from footpath which passes along it. In the photographs in the report, the 2 trees are very close and lower over a car park and a footpath that leads to the house, and the ministry uses the rear of the property. So again, it seems very reasonable work. It's not going to harm the tree. I recommend approval as well.
Members, anybody?
Can I move it, Chair?
Councillor Scott.
Sorry, Chair, just ask you a question. It says one of the conditions is that no branch which should be burned on site.
Yes.
Is there any stipulations to what you actually do with the branches that are taken off, or is that assumed that people know how to dispose of them?
As long as it's not fly tipped.
It's not something we would normally condition as to how we would dispose of it. The work would be carried out by a professional chipped up, or we don't specify that.
No, that's fair enough. Thank you. Okay. Yeah.
I've got a mover and a seconder. Accept that. All those in favour? Anybody against? Application approved. We'll move on to planning applications now. Item 13, this is direction of extension, the creation of a first floor terrace and external alterations at 11 Woollen Avenue, Battle.
Good afternoon. I am Rebecca Drake and I'm the case officer for this application. The application property is number 11 Woollen Avenue, the 2-storey detached property in Upper Batley. Members visited the site this morning. The dwelling is located towards the end of the cul-de-sac and has a close relationship with the neighbouring properties. So this is a picture of the property towards the end of the cul-de-sac, and then you've got the 2 neighbouring properties as shown on the photograph there. So I'm just going to go through a few photographs of the site just to jog people's memory from the site visit. So, like I say, that's the application property. In the middle there, you've got this photograph which is taken from the garden space in number 9, Woollen Avenue. So that's the front of the application property. And that just moves back to the rear of the property. This photograph is taken from the garden space of the application property and is looking towards number 14. So again, you can see the close relationships that exist. Planning permission is sought for significant extensions to the property, as well as external alterations. Full details of the proposed development are set out in section 3 of the committee report. The extensions comprise extensions to the front, both sides and rear of the property, as well as increasing the ridge height of the dwelling and constructing dormers. So we've had some CGIs that have been supplied in order to model the proposed development. I'm just going to quickly run through these. So this is the front elevation that you can see here. So you've got a small extension to the front of the garage that comes out there, a dormer to the front, a double height entrance porch also to the front, and then another front extension there with a gable feature. You can see the dormer and the increasing ridge height there. This is the side extension that's also proposed. So now we're moving around the side of the application property. We've got number 9 Woollen Avenue there, so you can see that relationship. And we've got a single storey element here. This then is set in a little bit. It continues to be single storey. You've got your 2-storey element there. That is all connected off the back of the original property, rather than projecting from the side of that. We have a raised terrace. You can see the privacy screens there. As we then move around the side, so this is the shed boundary with number 14. So So you can see the single storey element wraps around the side of the property and then towards the front. So the scheme under consideration has been amended in response to officer concerns in terms of visual and residential amenity concerns. The amended scheme is considered to on balance overcome these concerns, particularly when considering what the fallback position is in terms of community development. There's been a significant number of representations on the application, and the majority of these have been in objection, as set out in section 7 in the committee report and also within the update. Across both periods of publicity, there's been 53 representations on this application from members of the public. That figure includes second comments that have been made. 43 of these have been in objection. So, in summary, the application is considered to be on balance acceptable in terms of visual and residential amenity for the reasons set out in the report. There's no concern in relation to highway safety or any other material consideration. The application is therefore recommended for approval, subject to the conditions set out in the report. Thank you.
Thank you. Speakers now. Beverly Smith. Could I just ask you to come to the edge of the table there, please? Could I also say we've got 3 minutes, and could you keep an eye on that?
Absolutely.
Is that okay? Thank you.
There is a lot of subjective language and ambiguous statements used by the planning department in the report, such as no significant harm, not severe enough, officers are of review, no concerns of overdevelopment, no significant harm, would be a degree of impact, and verbally, I think the front would look nice. I would have preferred the use of a legal definition, but none exists. Therefore, we have to look to the reasonable man test of 1933, which states that he is an ordinary man, the average man, the man on the top of an omnibus. If this legally accepted tool is applied to this application, what answers would be given to the following? Does this affect the amenity of our property? Is the design in keeping with the immediate surroundings? Is the original house recognisable? Is it overbearing? Does it overshadow? Does it overlook? Does the site appear overdeveloped? Are the main materials used, that is the extensive use of render, out of character? Is the site appropriate to the surrounding properties? Does it respect the neighbour's property, for example, the hedge and the boundaries? Is it reasonable that in future a court order would be granted under the Access to the Neighbouring Land Act of 1992 so that the maintenance of the render on the western side of the wall can be achieved, as there will be no room to erect either scaffolding or ladders down this side of the property? If the council accepts this application, it will have created a legal neighbourhood dispute. Is this the role of the council? To walk away from situations that it has created and to accept no responsibility for its actions? Perhaps this is why it was built of brick in the first place. Is it reasonable that vegetation and my garden, which by very nature is temporary, is being used by planning officers to mitigate the screening of a rear, large, single-storey extension? When, on the other hand, is it fine to allow the destruction of the beech hedge? As reasonable persons, the committee has a duty in fairness, equality, and the trust that is placed in them to reflect carefully on this application. If the reasonable man test is to be upheld, then the committee has no choice but to dismiss this application.
Thank you. Andrew Royston,
Proposed redevelopment of 11 Hollybank Avenue would create a house 3 times the size of the current one, dwarfing surrounding properties. This massive alien, out-of-character property would dominate our adjoining bungalow, its mass being totally overbearing. As Kirklees planning has accepted, our amenity would be compromised and our treasured views lost. Overshadowing would be an issue, as large parts of our amenity would be plunged into shadow by our overbearing neighbour with its much higher roof line. Overlooking would result with privacy loss. On the application it was asked, are any trees on your own or adjoining properties in falling distance of the development? Will hedges or trees need to be removed or pruned to carry out your proposal? The answer to both was falsely given as no. The development splits the 50-year-old boundary beach hedge, a feature of local properties. Our gardens have been our pride for 20 years. These trees will have their roots removed by foundations. They are then to be enclosed behind a timber fence. The plan is to kill them, which is morally wrong. These are jointly owned and should not be killed. Access to this site is severely limited. My car and gate posts have already been damaged. This is one example of many which contravene the guidelines of the Kirklees Unitary Development Plan of 2007, as well as national policies. In another example, the fence is shown running through the corner of the garage, which incidentally will now not be the garage as shown on the plans, but instead a fully fitted out room. The plans contain so many inconsistencies that they should be looked upon as a set of approximate and contemptuous proposals, which should have been dismissed when Kirklees Planning informed me verbally that they were far too big. I still agree with this, but wonder at which point would this change. From an early stage, the applicant's husband maintained that according to the planners, this was always a done deal. The planning department bent over backwards to help this applicant. If it is a done deal, then this whole process has been grossly unfair, and while some people can just walk away, there is a very real human cost for those of us who have to live with the consequences. The toll on mine and Beverly's health caused by the stress of this has been horrendous. Both were recently prescribed medication, and worse, I am undergoing psychotherapy and monthly psychiatric monitoring. Thank you.
Thank you. Alden, please.
Good afternoon. I have lived for the last 42 years at number 7 Hollybank Avenue. All the houses on this cul-de-sac were built in the early 1960s by the same builder and all complement each other. The proposed development would be an eyesore. It would be overbearing and bearing no resemblance whatsoever to the character of the cul-de-sac by way of size, materials used and design. In fact, due to its size and height, it would be seen from two separate places on Carlisle Hill and would affect the whole ambience of Upper Batley. The balconies and terrace to the rear of my property would deprive me of any privacy in my back garden and living room area where I spend most of my time. As a person living on my own, this lack of privacy would make me feel very vulnerable. I think it is disgusting that the house will go right into my neighbour's hedge, destroying it, particularly when it is jointly owned. These hedges are an important part of the character of the cul-de-sac. The houses were built properly with space between them, and everyone has maintained this, but it seems that Kirklees are happy to go against their own policies, so what is the point of having them? As Kirklees are aware, the drains are a problem, and these will be under more strain from this development, making them worse because water cannot soak away, there will be hardly any garden left. Also, to say the Kirklees that the avenue needs updating is an utter disgrace. The avenue does not need updating. This is how the houses were built. This is why people bought them, because they like the character and design, which fits in with the whole of Upper Batley, where houses are of a high calibre but not contemporary. People have spent a lot of money on their houses and have always tried to keep them in character with the rest of the house, so why should this be destroyed? If these plans, which are so out of proportion and character, are approved, it will signal a free-for-all with anything goes, and the cul-de-sac will soon be unrecognisable, which will be an absolute shame. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Pollard,
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and committee. I am a Banfield lad, born and bred, and I've lived in my family home for over 40 years. I am strongly objecting to the application for many reasons, and we have been asked to speak on behalf of our neighbours who are also against this application. Alarmingly, the proposed house is 3 times the size of the existing property. After your visit this morning, I want you to imagine a house 3 times the size of what you saw and the effect that this would have on all of the neighbours. It would be a house so big that it will dominate the cul-de-sac and be totally out of scale against the other properties. It comes very close to my property and looks directly into my garden and living rooms, which are at that side of my house, and so results in the loss of my privacy. Also, as the closest neighbour, the proximity of the house will mean an increased noise and disturbance to me, even more so when the front garden at my side is to be a car park for at least 3 cars. The building is totally out of keeping with any other property in the avenue, where any improvements that have been done so sympathetically. The design is both inconsistent and overbearing. There is a clear overdevelopment of the plot with a severe loss of garden space. Lastly, I am concerned that plans were submitted 12 months ago and the Kirklees planning officer came to visit me, took photographs and gave me assurance that I should not worry, as the proposed property would not be granted permission. They said it was clearly overshadowing me and looking straight into my living rooms and garden. Yet, here we are today, discussing plans that are essentially the same size as the first application. They are the same size, the same depth, the same 3-storey height and mass. Finally, ladies and gentlemen, bearing in mind the sheer size and position of the closest to my home, would you like this monstrosity to be built next to you? This should not be allowed. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Woollen, please.
Thank you. Members, these proposals aren't for one extension or even 2. This is a complete remodelling and virtual replacement of a modest 3-bed house with a 3-storey, 5-bedroom house with multiple large additions on 3 sides. The house is currently 189 square metres over 2 floors, whereas the proposal will create a total floor space of 446 metres, nearly triple the existing size. It's actually crossed my mind that these plans were being prepared for Donald Trump's state visit. Policy B13 requires extensions to respect the design features of the existing house and adjacent buildings, including materials of construction, window openings, roof styles and architectural detailing. This development doesn't fulfil any of those criteria and would totally fail to be in keeping with other houses on Hollybank Avenue. Policy B14 says that rear extensions should normally be limited to 3 metres in overall projection. The proposals extend out to 6.8 metres over double this length. The policy also says the front extension should be relatively small in scale. However, in this case, 2 large projecting extensions are proposed, wholly contrary to the policy in our view. Policy B12 space about buildings and the 21 metre standard for habitable room separation. In this case, the large bifolding door windows on the side elevation will look directly into number 14's conservatory at only 8 metres distance, falling short of the policy requirement by 13 metres. In fact, the plans don't even show Mr. Pollard's conservatory anywhere. The 3D images are looking at the development from up in the sky, not the ground where the impacts will be viewed from. They don't properly show the neighbouring properties, which would allow the true impacts to be fully appreciated. The whole point of how this avenue of houses was originally planned was to ensure each house was the right size and on the right size plot, to ensure suitable space about buildings, privacy and the ability to enjoy one's own property in peace and quiet. If you look, for example, at the current position of the applicant's house and then see how the side extension projects toward Mr. Pollard's garden, it results in the direct overlooking of the rear and side of his house. The plots clearly weren't designed to accommodate this without a serious loss of privacy. There's a well-known technical planning term to describe this sort of situation: a quart into a pint pot. In other words, too big, overdevelopment, garden grabbing, etc., etc. This is the wrong house for plans of this scale and design. It's as simple as that in our opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Laher, please.
alright to stand here?
Yes.
Yeah. Good afternoon, Chair, Honourable Councillors and Officers. I would like to start by thanking you all for allowing me this opportunity to speak on behalf of my family in relation to the planning application of 11 Hollybank Avenue, which is our home. I am a Batley lad. I was born here and I've lived here all my life. I'm an entrepreneur who has a chain of quick service restaurants that employs over 75 people, all in the Kirklees area. I've made my priority to ensure my businesses are fully compliant and with all their statutory obligations. All my outlets have 5-star hygiene rating. I am proud to say that as a business, we have an excellent relationship with the local authority and its officers. Some of our work with them includes keeping the local area clean, tidy, serving healthy options, and the use of biodegradable packaging. I have seen many of my fellow business associates grow and leave Batley. I love this town and plan to stay here for the foreseeable future. With this in mind, I recently purchased 11 Hollybank Avenue, which is to become a home for me and my family. I recently submitted a planning application for this property in September 2017. On review of the application and recommendation from the planning officer, I withdrew this application. On withdrawal, we held into a series of meetings and discussions with the planning department to allay planning and neighbours' concerns for the revised planning application. The revised planning application has taken us almost a year to complete, with many meetings and detailed correspondence with the planning officer, Ms. Rebecca Drake. We have worked tirelessly with her and the team leader, Sarah Longbaum, to ensure all objections by neighbours and any other concerns have been addressed. It was only after the extended dialogue in which both I and my appointed agent revised the scheme to reach a mutually agreeable scheme that the planning officers have recommended the grant of planning application permission. All material planning policies have been addressed, the visual impact of the development has been considered, and we believe through the process of the dialogue the design has been enhanced. There are no concerns with regards to effect on the neighbour, public amenities, traffic and highways. All considerations have been addressed. The process of ensuring we are compliant and considerate has almost taken us a year at a considerable cost to me and my family. As I've already mentioned, I'm a proud of Batley. I see this as an investment in my town. This development, in my humble opinion, will elevate this area. It will visually enhance the neighbourhood and I'm sure add real value to the community. I would request the committee to follow the recommendation of the planning officer who has worked tirelessly to allay both mine and the neighbours' concerns and follow the recommendation for the grant of planning permission. I would like to finish by thanking the chair of the committee, local councillors, planning department for their advice, guidance and hopefully a positive decision on the application. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Iqbal.
Your Honourable Chair, committee members, Honourable Councillors and Officers. I'm here on behalf of the applicant and on behalf of the agent, Studio IQ. We've been working on the scheme, which was originally submitted to the local authority for consideration. At the time, the concerns raised by the objectees were looked at with view of the original scheme that was submitted and with view of the feedback that we received from the planning officer. The applicant took the position to withdraw the application and enter into an extended dialogue with the local authority. We then worked with Rebecca Drake and also the senior officers to come up with a scheme allaying the concerns and in line with the National Planning Policy Framework and also the Local Development Framework, i.e. the UDP and the local plan. We have addressed quite a few key concerns. One thing that I would like to highlight, in addition to the officer's recommendations in line with the policies set out within the UDP and the local framework, is the fallback position of the permitted development rights. Now, the fallback position is that single-storey side extensions to both neighbours can be extended up to 6.5 metres, which is half the width of the original dwelling, under permitted development, and therefore planning consent does not need to be consulted. In addition to that, the side extension, the smaller side extension, can be extended up to the neighbouring boundary within, as outlined, as long as it does not exceed 2.5 metres in height to the eaves level. Also, I'd like to highlight that the full development is within the demise and under the ownership of the applicant. The red line boundary has been consulted by Ordnance Survey Mapping Data, and the land registry council deeds. So therefore, any development taking place, including development underneath the ground level, is all within the firm ownership of the applicant. I'd also like to highlight the beech tree hedging issue. What the applicant has clearly highlighted is that any boundary treatments to be erected within the grounds will fall within the community development guidelines. Should this not be the case, then the council have a position, a fallback position for enforcement to get involved, as it would constitute an unauthorised development should a boundary treatment not fall within the area. In general, we do believe that the scale and the massing added to the building has been controlled and overall improves the aesthetic quality of the building, albeit this is a subjective issue. However, the use of render material, the use of the materials within the proposal are in line with what's already found along Hollybank, and due to the nature of the plot, which is a corner plot, and the increased large plot size, we do believe that the extensions do fall within the cycle line. So once again, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. And Liz, comment?
Can I have some clarification regarding the size of the rear extension? Because there seems to be contradicting things. So some clarification on the size and the rear extension.
The rear extension, there's a single story in fact I'll use this. So we've got a single story element that comes out 5.2, 5.3 metres from the rear elevation of the property. And then there's this canopy structure here that comes out another 1.5. Now the two-story element here will align with that first bit of the single story element without the canopy.
Anybody else?
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
No.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. This is something that needs to be cleared up, in my opinion, particularly with the question of permissive development rights being brought up just now. I am very concerned about the side extension on the southwest side of the building, which, as the resident of number 9 points out, would have to be maintained by using his property in order to get at it. Now, there is already an extension there, but I would wish that the rest of it should be withdrawn from this application, because it doesn't give rise to a situation where the only way of getting at it for maintenance purposes is from next door's garden. I regard that as unsatisfactory, particularly since the boundary is a hedge and not a fence. I think that any use, well, there could be damage to the hedge is what I'm saying, which is clearly a valued and valuable part of the street scene. I'd just like clarification on the limited development situation, if possible, please, whether there's any way in which that can be done without permission.
Yeah, sure. So in terms of permitted development, one of the things that we have taken into consideration during the application is what can be done under permitted development, and the extensions to the side, so that should have been within certain heights because of the proposed boundary, they could be done under permitted development. So when we've been looking at sort of remodelling things like this throughout the scheme, it's been trying to look at getting the bulk of any two-story elements away from the neighbouring property, so it's concentrated on the existing rear elevation of the property. So particularly in relation to number 14, which is at the other side of the screen here, the previous applications, the previous schemes that we've looked at, they've had two-story elements coming out to the side here as well. So in trying to overcome some of these concerns, that's what we've been looking at, where, because we think that it is, a fairly big site, so in terms of where this development can be best placed in order to have less of an impact or to ease it to a level of harm that we can support. So that's the reason that it's single story to the side, because of that community development fallback. And that's why the two-story element on there is concentrated there to the rear and then to the section to the front previously.
Yeah, thank you. I'm still not happy about that because the result of that is that the site extension is really very close to the boundary. And yes, I know under some circumstances you can put things very close to the boundary, but I think this just creates a potential problem.
Chair, I'll just not be on the side visit this morning. I just want to clarify the toll issue because Mr. Woollen mentioned the fact that part of this is only 8 metres away from the next property. I always thought we were looking at 21 metres. Can you just clarify that, please?
Possibly BE12 relates to the erection of new dwelling, so that's what we'd apply when we're looking at a new build dwelling rather than extensions to it. So one thing that I have set out in the report, particularly in terms of any openings to the side, would like condition on them that they are obscurely glazed, so that we're not going to have any loss of privacy in terms of the ones on the side elevation. On the front elevation, again, as we were previously discussing, with it being permitted development, I mean, then that's not going to be a condition, so it's not recommended to be conditioned to be obscurely glazed. We have, in the negotiations, got it set back from the front elevation, which tries to again sort of reduce the impact over the roof box we're going to commit development. But in terms of the side windows, then we can get obscure in place if you were wanting to follow up to the finish.
Councillor Lawson.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, Chair, can I ask, on the side elevation in the north corner, we have an opening, is that floor to ceiling, that opening bifold or sliding door, as it appears on our plan? That one. That one.
Are you talking about these ones on here?
Yeah.
These?
That particular one towards the corner, that one, yeah.
Yeah, so in the report I've suggested that all of these are obscurely placed so that they can't look across into the...
Okay, through you, Chair, do these need to be fixed glazing, not openings as well?
That can be conditioned.
That can be conditioned. Okay, well, probably want that anywhere. Thank you.
What else? Can I'll make a couple of points here. There were a couple of points that were raised at Chair's briefing on this, in particular the proximity of the boundary. What sort of frightens me a little bit is that Mr. Iqbal said that we could be using enforcement to try to ensure that any work that's being done on there is legal. Now, that's not a situation I don't think we want to be put in. I think we need to go back and ask the applicant to have a look at that again, because that situation is something that we don't want to be imposing on that neighbour, I don't think. And certainly it would be a part of all situation. So I'm not saying that we should refuse this. I want to think that we could. I would like to think that we could defer it and ask the applicant to look again at that situation, whether something could be changed, whether it could be brought forward sufficient so as you could, or so as they could maintain, and vice versa, and that makes sense. Because one of the issues that was raised this morning is about the digging of the foundations. The digging of the foundations is definitely going to cause a problem with that, with the beach edge. So I think we need to just try to readdress that, if that's possible. On a personal note, I could, there's other things in there. Permitted development. People don't like permitted development. It's there, but it's in legislation, and we have to abide by that. And things can be done as far as that is concerned. But the other things where we've got control, I think we need to ensure that no harm comes to other people's buildings. I think generally it is acceptable, and you might not like what I'm saying, but I think certainly we need to look at that boundary. So I'm happy to move deferral, but to have another look at that edge. If people are willing to. Okay. Are we okay with that? Right. Can we ask that it? Bear in mind, I know that we do some work on that. Actually, starting on that. Can we ask that it comes back next time, and anything, any decision will be made? Mr. Laher, decision will be made next time at this next meeting. Okay. I'd like to actually personally just try to work with your neighbours and try to get this sorted out. Okay. So this is a request for deferral. All those in favour? Anybody against? That's deferred then. Deferred for the next meeting. Thank you. Move on to item 14, selection of extension at zoning at 7 Park Drive.
Members visited the site this morning. The application relates to a semi-detached two-storey dwelling located on Parkhouse Drive in Woollen. The site is unallocated and is not in conservation. Planning Commission has sought the erection of a two-storey site extension to the existing dwelling. So on the plans here, we've got the extension here comprising of first bit of ground floor and here at the first floor. There's rooms also in the roof space. And as you can see on the elevations, it's all of this area here that we're looking at today. There are no highway safety or residential immunity concerns. So the main issue for consideration this afternoon related to the design and the scale of the extension, which in the opinion of officers is a duly prominent. And we consider that would detract from the appearance of the host dwelling itself, and also, as you can see here, the photograph of the wider street scene, given its prominent location. Officers have been in negotiations with the applicant, and it's considered that the amendments that are proposed don't overcome the concerns that I've just put down for you. So officers are recommending refusal. Thank you.
Thank you. There's no speakers on this, members.
I mean, those of us who are on site with this morning will realise that street, right from where you got the main road right now to cul-de-sac, nothing's been altered, we're all exactly the same design at the moment. And I think Pop's recommendation is absolutely spot on. This is far too large, far too prominent, and I would recommend that we agree with officers' recommendations to refuse this application.
Anybody? Councillor?
Thank you, Chair. I would support what Councillor Zerner just said. I think it's grossly overbearing, not on surrounding properties, but just on the street scene in general. And the other thing, well, there are two other things that I find it worrying. That is the back of the extension is actually very close to the boundary fence. So it would be extremely difficult to maintain the back of the extension, bearing in mind that there is shrubbery the other side of the boundary fence. And I just think we shouldn't be giving permission to something that's so close to the boundary. The other thing is that it's creating a third story, if you like, or second story. Sorry, I just think that it's going to produce a property that is just too big. When one could look upon these properties as being kind of starter houses, if you like. So that then takes one of those out of the market. You probably can't use that as a reason for refusal, but I think it's a consideration. So second.
Anybody else? I actually think it's building wise. I don't think you could do it. Honestly, don't think you could create that third floor. It's, no others have got any dollars in. But I'd be here to be surprised if you could. Right, we're going to move over in a second to accept officer's recommendation to refuse this application. All those in favour? Anybody against? Application refused. Thank you. Item 15, this is a planning application for a single store extension being made to create a holiday cottage, 13 top of the bank, Thurston Manning.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Nia Thomas and I'm case officer for this application. The application has been brought to head of the Committee at the request of Councillor Bill Arnold. Members visited the site this morning. The application relates to a bed and breakfast of 13 top of the bank in Thurston. The building has previously been extended, so this area is going to move forward, which is an extension that was approved in 2006 as part of the conversion application for the breakfast. The proposal is for an extension to the bed and breakfast to form a 2-bedroom holiday cottage. The provision of the holiday cottage is considered as an independent residential unit. Just as a point of clarification, members, since the update, a revised plan has been submitted showing the positioning of the holiday cottage, so just projecting beyond the celebration here, and that now ties in with the block plan that you saw on your site visit. So this is the existing breakfast, and this here is the proposed 2-storey holiday. Additionally, it should be noted that an objection was received from the Footpath Society. Consultation with the public right-of-way team since been undertaken, and the extension no longer obstructs the footpath. So just on this, just for full clarification here, this is the footpath running on here, and the extension is now being moved, so it no longer obstructs that. The site is located in the green belt. So as stated in my report, the erection of an independent residential unit would be inappropriate development and by definition would cause harm to the openness of this currently undeveloped land. In an attempt to justify the development, the applicants provided what they consider to be very special circumstances. These relate mainly to the perceived benefits that the business expansion will bring to the local economy, and these can be read in detail in section 106 of the officer report. Officer's opinion is that the applicant's very special circumstances do not clearly outweigh the harm to the openness of the green belt, and therefore the principle of development remains inappropriate. There is no concern with regards to residential amenity and highway safety. To conclude, the proposal is recommended for refusal due to being inappropriate development in the green belt, which would be contrary to paragraph 89 of the National Planning Policy. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Emma Hanks.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. Ackroyd House Bed and Breakfast was born in 2006 after the owners Andrew and Jane Blackway successfully gained planning permission and opened its doors in 2007. The B&B provides 2 luxury suites for guests to stay in, where guests are surrounded by the beautiful secluded landscape gardens set within its rural location in the village of Thurstonland, and quite honestly has some of the best views of the Home Valley. The business has grown from strength to strength and is an award-winning 5-star B&B. The B&B has proven its success year on year and is already successfully contributing to the local tourism and rural economy of the Home Valley. It is Andy and James' wish to grow their business further due to the increased number of guests inquiring and wanting to stay at Ackroyd House, and that there is a significant lack of luxury B&B accommodation within this popular tourist area. Year on year, the percentage filled for Ackroyd House has increased, and often guests are being turned away as they are fully booked. So to help fill this demand, the B&B has put in a current application to extend the accommodations to a further 2 bedrooms and living space, so that guests can self-cater or stay in the B&B. This has been described in notices with Fjord as purely a holiday cottage. This is not accurate. The rooms can be used either way, and they've been designed to provide this by having a separate entrance and interlocking doors if the rooms are being used as B&B rooms, increasing the flexibility to Ackroyd House. The design of the proposal is single-storey, and the materials proposed are natural stone coins, stone heads and balloons, roof slates, and a feature oak frame section to the living accommodation with a lantern to the roof, all in keeping with the current building and the size being under a third of the existing building. We note that the application is within the Greenbelt, and our design is sympathetic to this, and we feel we have limited detriment to the Greenbelt and its openness. The location is very private and is predominantly surrounded by a high wall which hides the new extension of the popular public footpath at the top of the fields. The crowd that goes through the application site is rarely used. Employment of 2 to 3 new staff has also been suggested to help deal with the increased rooms if planning is granted. We feel that it is an increase to the local tradespeople, etc., with regards to guests using the local facilities, pubs, etc., and feel that these are special circumstances. Sadly, a week and a half ago, Andy, the owner of the property, passed away. I now feel that this is even more important to the family as a whole to get this supported by yourselves and to get this application through so that this business can have a future. Thank you everybody for listening, and I hope you can support. Thank you.
Thank you. Members?
Chair, it's as the applicant stated, it's in the Greenbelt. Can't support it because I don't think it, as we all know, the definition of Greenbelt is quite simple, demonstrates special circumstances. I do not believe that this demonstrates special circumstances at any level. I think the fact that it's got separate entrance almost makes it a separate entity and could be at some point, with a better word, used differently or sold for an alternative purpose. So I don't think it demonstrates special circumstances. Therefore, I would recommend follow-up to recommendations and refuse this application.
Yeah, Chair, I'd just like to echo what Councillor Taylor says. For me, it doesn't demonstrate special circumstances at all. It did warrant a site visit to go and have a look at, what the actual plot looked like. So I'm going to second Councillor Taylor.
Thanks, Chair. Yes, I agree with what's been said. I understand where the applicants are coming from. I can see their point, but in this case, I rather doubt whether we could use the special circumstances that they're offering as a reason for overriding our policy, or indeed national policy on Greenbelt properties. So, regrettably, from their point of view, I would have to go on that recommendation.
Anybody else? I have to say I agree with you. I don't think there's any special circumstances being put forward. And should we actually accept this, it would be no floodgate, I would have thought, because it's a fantastic location, I have to say. It is a fantastic location. And certainly, I'm sure there's other properties around there that could benefit from this type of business. So, a special circumstance that hasn't been created. We have a mover and a seconder to accept officer's recommendation to refuse. All those in favour? Anybody against? Application refusal. Thank you. Right, we're moving into. Oh no, not so. Sorry. We've got number 16. Plan out discharge conditions. Mr. Ritchie.
Chair, my name is John Ritchie. I'm the planning officer. The application relates to planning permission, which has been given for the erection of 62 dwellings, which is currently nearing completion. It's a former cycling walls. And the application made by Connect Housing Association to alter the terms of the Section 106 agreement regarding the provision of social housing. The agreement was to provide 4 apartments at sub-market rent. 80% of constitutes 80% of the prevailing market rent. And the landowner was required to let the units affordable rent. 50% of the rent paid during the first 2 years of the tenancy could constitute a deposit in the event that the tenant decided to buy the unit at market value. The changes requested are for reference to the affordable housing requirements in the legal agreement to be revoked in accordance with government funding. That would allow the housing association to take advantage of funding from government and purchase the properties. The housing association proposed to purchase 5 units at market value for let at affordable rent. The officer's recommendation is to agree the proposal, but it would only kick in once the housing association acquired the units. The full reports before members, nothing further to add, Chair.
Can you just remind members why we deferred it from last time?
Yes, Chair. Members requested details of the financial implications of the request. The Connect Housing Association were buying the properties at market value, and members were concerned at the financial benefits which the developer would accrue if the Section 106 agreement is changed. As noted in the report, it's estimated that the developer would benefit by approximately £20,000, in other words, £20,000 of community benefit that would be lost.
Members?
I'm just totally amazed with it. Absolutely amazed. You know, the contribution that we, for affordable or, housing. The 20,000 that you say approximately 20,000, is that per household? Or is that the total sum? Well,
It's not in private session, but the fact was that he's made no contributions under any 106. Not very and certainly none under any housing 106. The fact being that he would come out from this development and not pay anything towards that. That's the issue, and that's always been the issue. you take it upon yourself, please.
Chair, I'm still of the same opinion. I think that there should be contribution. I think we make these agreements in order for things to happen for communities, and I am adamant on this one. I'm not happy to support it at all.
I agree with Councillor Scott. We put these conditions on. There's been no 106 contribution. Put these conditions on. We get to the end of it when he's pocketed the money from the meals. I don't know how he's built now, but significant amount of money. And then says, by the way, I don't want to honour my commitment. And that's what I think this is. It's a bit moralistic with me. We agreed to deal with someone, and then at the 11th hour, when he's nearly pocketed the money, he suddenly decides, whoever he is, I don't know, developer, decides he's not going to honour that agreement. I think that's morally wrong, for one thing, and a poor way to do business. To alter a deal when you're nearly there. I think it's a poor way to do business, and I just think it is morally wrong. We're not asking a fortune off this one. He's done no other contributions. He's going to do all right out of this, and yet the little bit we want, he still don't want to join in, if you like. I find it morally wrong, personally, and that's a personal opinion. And I'm with Cathy, I wouldn't alter this one bit. Let's put a marker down. Sometimes I think not soft, but we try and help developers as often as we can, and we can't. We'll try and work with them.
Remind you, we did bend over backwards for it.
Yeah, exactly. We do all we can. We do all we can to help them, and then at the end it says, "Oh, by the way, I'm going to kick you in the teeth." I'm sorry. I'm really offensive.
Thank you, Chair.
It annoys me.
I totally agree with what the previous two speakers have said. I just wonder, where are these properties in the plan? And B, what happens to them if we refuse this? Have they been built? Or are they in the process of being built?
We'll suggest that the practically built.
I'm not trying to excuse anything, but are we going to be left with 5 properties that are built but unoccupied? I think I would go along with what's been suggested, in other words, to refuse.
We are in the cleft stick here because Connect are offering us 5 social housing back. They're going to acquire these properties and it will go back into social housing. As it stands now, there would only be 4, but it's a matter, I think, it's a matter of principle about this particular issue. I remember sitting in this room and listening with amazement about the viability of this particular development, and we then, as Councillor Turner said, actually accepted with a little bit of that for the sake of allowing these properties to go ahead. Now it's like a gentleman's agreement that's gone sour. Do you want to come in there?
Can I just say, I think the tone of the committee is to go for refusal on this, and I think it would be better to defer it with a full report, setting out in detail exactly what the advantages and disadvantages of this are, setting aside the moral issue or whether it's a gentleman's agreement and the consequences of refusal in terms of potential costs.
Yeah, well you can. That's your advice, yes. I think at this moment in time, I think you need to accept the feeding of the committee. Councillor Scott.
Chair, I'm listening to what the legal officer says. However, I was on this original committee when we went back. I was there when we made the deferrals, and these were all the questions that we've asked. I feel that we've had enough as a committee today to make that decision. The judgments that we were making, we asked for all that information, we've had it. I don't think we can go any further with this. So I am moving refusal.
I was going to second it, but I agree with Cathy. Sometimes you have to put us a marker down saying, otherwise what's the point of being here? If we're just going to rubber stamp things and go along with somebody who says, oh, I'm not making quite enough money now, I'll change here. If we're just going to do that, we might as well all sort of on today instead of having a jolly round Kirklees. Let's show them we've got some teeth. We mean business. We want to work with people, but
I think
you've got to play the side of the deal.
I think I said this earlier today. And, you accept some of these things, and then all of a sudden other developments think, oh, that's what we do. And that's not what this committee is all about. I don't think it is fair.
Reason for refusal.
Can I just say, Chair, that whilst I agree with what's been proposed, I'm still concerned that of the consequences of refusing. You know, where do we go from there? Does the implication of that say to the developer, right, you've got to come and talk to us again about this, and sort out a solution that is acceptable to us?
I have to say there is, and I'm not giving away, there is an halfway house here, and that is, it is deferred, but go back and say, well look, the members are not going to accept this, and if it comes back again, if you don't make a better offer, then the members are going to refuse it, and that's, you know, it's a little bit of sitting on the fence, is that, at this particular moment in time, but I think it does give us the opportunity, should it be taken to inquiry or something like that, or inspector, that it's, you know, we've tried to do something about this. It will mean you're accepting that, but this is about, you know, sending messages to that developer. We're not accepting this. Tell us what.
Yes, I agree with that. I'm just a bit worried about the consequences of refusal.
Yeah.
I mean, our legal officer wouldn't have said
I understand that.
Defer it under the circumstances.
I understand that, but there's a little bit of both here. Look, you know, once you start doing these things, officers are always a little bit scared and find creating issues. But there's a time when we're here to make decisions as elected members, and this is what we're here for. Otherwise, we might as well not be here. Sorry.
Thank you, Chair. I think I support that move to defer, simply because it gives us the ability then to say we are at the very limit of our business here and of the way we do business, and that should not become standard business practice. So that would be how I would support a deferral, is the very limit of the way we bend over for people, bend over backwards for people. That should not be standard practice. That should be the exception, not the rule.
I think we need to just second judge this. That's what has made me think. We need to just second judge what other people's going to think. If we're getting 5 houses and we're not, and we're only getting 4 premiums, or definitely under a different type of tenure as well. Councillor Turner.
I get your point about the current stuff. I would actually offer a deferral level, but whoever speaks to the developer needs to make it very clear. He needs to take a video of this meeting and make it very clear to the developer that if he does not come up with a plan, he will be refused next time. It's got to be no illusions that unless it changes significantly or agrees to that, we will refuse it. It's got to be made clear to him. He's not coming back with a half-hearted thing next time when we have to defer it again. He has to come with and something like that. And if he has to sit and watch this, let him sit and watch this. It's on the website.
Councillor Turner has actually stole my thunder on the end of it. But I would like to say I understand what Councillor Pinnock's saying about consequences and of it, but equally we're sending a message. There'll be consequences of us as a committee that it gives free for all, that people developers in particular can come back and not honour. At some point we have to draw a line, and I want that absolutely as in this development. As we move forward as a committee, we're here for a reason.
Well, we did say the very same thing last time when we thought that this is what we're going to get. This is as far as we're going. We can't keep changing the goalposts. Right, we're going to move on in a second to. Did you second, John? John second.
I'm second.
To defer the act until the next meeting.
For the last time.
Anybody against? That's deferred. Thank you. session. This is the modification section 106 obligation relating to land at Ashbourne Drive. The easy place that we are going to actually take the report before we go into that session.
Yes, the latest from the applicant. So
I thought you would. Yes. You might be able to answer some of these questions.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Just a brief presentation, just to outline this in public before we go into private session. The application relates to development of 46
sorry, can I just ask you your name?
Nicola.
Nicola, there's been a series of questions being asked about the actual development itself, and the abnormals and residual land values. But one of the main things is about the percentage profit, which is set at 20%. That is extremely high. And I can only go on myself. And I went to training. Actually, when we was at training, it was presented to us that is a common percentage for profit by one of our officers, and it isn't. It isn't. That's negotiable between us as a local authority and you as a developer. And we're putting that to you, and I'm quite happy to defer this again to say, can you attempt to readdress that to enable us that we get more affordables on this site?
Right.
Because 20% we feel is extremely high.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Are you all right with that? Can you take that back to your... So, we're not questioning anything else, although there was some issues about the abnormals and the drainage and the retaining walls. It's just purely on the profit side. Okay. And so we move really deferral and... Okay. Right. We'll take a vote on to defer this item to the next meeting. All those in favour? That's deferred then. Thank you very much.